And that's why we're here today, because now more than ever, we need to learn from each other what's working, what are the dynamics that are driving the current market, and even more importantly, to build collaborative relationships with each other across brokerages. We're in a relationship business, and deals get done when we work together. Joanne would have really loved to have been here and seen this today. She believed so much in fostering collaboration between agents and learning from each other. And one of the reasons that we're doing this today is to honor her spirit and continue that legacy. So thank you all for coming. We have 4 fantastic panels for you today. The panelists collectively have almost $600 million in active for sale inventory right now, $100 million in pending sales, and just over the last 10 years, they've sold nearly $6 billion in real estate in our market. So we're going to hear from some of the best there are in each of the segments that we're going to be diving into today. So I want to thank the panelists for volunteering their time and their expertise and their passion. Nobody's making any money from this. We're not selling a course or anything after this. This is purely just to learn from each other and to build relationships amongst each other so that we can better serve our clients and our communities. I also want to thank our sponsors, Good Kind and Florio Law Firm, a boutique law firm, super on the top of their game, A-plus service. We use them both personally and for our clients. Couldn't recommend them more. And also Global Insurance Agency. They do our personal family insurance. We also recommend them to our clients. Definitely encourage you all to give them both a chance. We'll be sending out some information to you all on them. Okay, so before we call up our panelists, we're going to go into an overview of the market. I'm going to go pretty quickly, given how much information I'm going to cover. And a lot of you are going to want to try to make notes or take pictures or try to remember it all. That's not the point. What we're going to do is set the frame for today, just the big picture. I'm going to send out all of these slides to everybody afterwards by email. And on August 15th, we're going to have a Zoom. I'm going to send you all a link where we're going to dive deep into these stats, much deeper than what we have time for today. And at the end of that, I'm even going to show you how we pull all of this information out of the MLS and the tax records to come up with these stats for ourselves, for our clients, and to share with you. So the first thing is today we're going to focus on the Southeast Miami market. We're not going to talk about the beach. We're not talking about Sunny Isles. We're not talking about Aventura. It's not that we don't sell in those markets from time to time, but everybody in this room, and there's about, just so you know, about $2.5 to $3 billion a year in production in this room. I ran all of our numbers in the MLS, and this room alone moves over $2 billion of real estate in Miami. So you guys are the market makers in this community. So today we're going to talk about Southeast Miami, which for our purposes is downtown Miami to Palmetto Bay, east of the Turnpike. So we've been on a hell of a run the past several years. Homes in Southeast Miami are up 121% over just the last 5 years. So if one of your clients bought $1 million home in 2019, that house is $2.2 million today. They're walking away with a $1.2 million profit in just 5 years. It's been an unbelievable run. Coconut Grove is up 163% during that time. Coral Gables is up 105%. The Rhodes, I mean, this is amazing. The Rhodes is averaging almost $1.7 million right now, up 129% over just the last 5 years. Shenandoah, almost $1 million to buy a house, an average house in Shenandoah right now, up 107% over just the last 5 years. So we've been on a hell of a run, and for good reasons. Miami is an amazing, amazing place to live, to work, and to raise your family. Southeast Miami has outperformed the county over the last 5 years. So in 2019, homes in our market, on average, were priced 41% more than the average home in Miami-Dade County. And that makes sense because we've got Coconut Grove, we've got Coral Gables, we've got Key Biscayne, we've got Pinecrest, we've got Ponce Davis. It makes sense that our area has always been more expensive than the county at large. But look what's happened over the last 5 years. We went from being 41% more expensive to being 47% more expensive. And if you look at the trajectory of the two graphs, it looks like we're getting more and more expensive relative to the county overall. So we work in and we represent one of the absolute top submarkets in Miami-Dade County. Condos are up 136% over just the last 5 years. Even though the Grove and Key Biscayne have softened a little this year, and we're going to dig into some of that as we go on, over the last 5 years, condos in the Grove are up 144%. So again, if you paid $1 million for a condo in the Grove 5 years ago, it's worth $2.4, $2.5 right now. I mean, it's an amazing run in just 5 years. Brickell is up 78% over 5 years, almost $1 million to buy an average condo in Brickell now. Downtown up 98%, and Coral Gables up 66% over just the last 5 years. So the last 5 years has been an amazing run for all of us, and I'm sure we've all been enjoying that time. There has been a 421% increase in the percent of sales 3 million plus. 5 years ago, and especially 10 years ago, to sell a $5 million house in Miami was like amazing. I mean, you're talking about Gables Estates, back then. Now, $5 million doesn't buy you a parking space in Gables Estates. And the number of sales, 3 million plus, is up over 400%. So if you look, in 2019, 3 million plus only represented 1.3% of all sales in Southeast Miami. And today it's up to 7%. 5 million was a third of, 0.5% in 2019, and it's over 3% of our sales right now. And sales 7 million plus were exceedingly rare, 0.2% of sales. And now over 1.5% of sales are 7 million plus in Southeast Miami. So it's been an amazing influx of wealthy buyers to our market. There's been 20.8 billion, almost 21 billion of cash deals in just Southeast Miami. Again, this is just downtown to Palmetto Bay, east of the Turnpike, almost $21 billion of cash deals over just the last 5 years. And when you look at the percent by price, 72% of deals that are 5 million plus are all cash. 62% of deals that are between 3 and 5 million are all cash. It's just a massive influx of wealth and cash into our market over a very short amount of time. This chart is really mind-boggling. Since 2019, 81% of sales were either all cash or at an average mortgage rate under 5%. So what we did was we downloaded the historic weekly mortgage rates from the Fed, and we matched those up with every sale in the MLS in our market to see what was the average rate the week that those sales closed. And between 2020 and 2021, 35 to 40% of sales were under 3% mortgages. Remember those fun days? And during that time, another 30, 40% were cash. So, almost every single deal that people bought in the last 3 and 4 years were either cash or under 3% mortgages. And when you look at mortgages in the 3% range, going back as far as 2014, but especially picking up speed more recently, a lot of people who live in our market either own their house all cash, they're in under 3% mortgage, they're in 3% mortgages, and 4% mortgages. And it's important to understand this from two perspectives. The first is why a lot of your sellers are acting in ways that some people think are irrational, where they're turning down 120% profits on homes they bought just 3 and 4 and 5 years ago. And it's because the cost for them to go out and buy a house that's appreciated 120% since then at a mortgage rate 2 or 3 times the rate that they're currently in for, plus pay the capital gains, the property taxes, and of course our current insurance challenges. It is a very difficult proposition. So when they're holding out for 150% or more, and we think, oh my God, I'm bringing them 120%, why aren't they taking it? Now you know. So many people are locked in at such cheap money that even given these massive recent increases in profits for them, it's challenging for them to turn around and buy another house. So the bulls in our market, the sellers, the bulls, they are long Miami. Miami, in their eyes, a lot of them bought 10, 20 years ago. They paid $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for their house. They own it outright. Their house is worth $2.5, $3.5, $4 million land value right now. They only see Miami getting better. And on the other hand, they're golden handcuffed to their homes, because even if they took this lottery money, where would they go? What would they buy between the taxes and the new carrying costs? It would be very difficult. And that's why, despite a slowdown in sales, prices continue to rise, because the vast majority of homeowners are golden handcuffed and super long Miami for all the right reasons. On the other hand, the bears, the buyers, they're starting to pull back. And we're feeling that. That's what we saw when we all raised our hands earlier, that sales are much more challenging right now than they've been in the past. And they're pulling back both psychologically. You can only push people so far before they start to go, does this really make sense? And they're also pushing back financially. Even people who are willing to pay 120% more for someone's house than they paid just 4 years ago. A lot of buyers can't do it financially. They just don't have the wherewithal to afford the current cost of living in Miami. And so the first thing we want to do when we understand what's driving some of the bearishness in buyers is to understand this very tight correlation between inflation and interest rates and sales and prices. Again, we took the weekly average rate from the Fed going back to 1970, and we paired it up with every sale in the MLS just in our area. All this data is just in the Grove, the Gables, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Brickell, downtown, our market area. And what we see is this amazing correlation between interest rate and home prices. So the dotted red line, without understanding the dynamics of all of this too much, a dotted red line is interest rates. When the dotted red line comes down, when money's cheaper, the green line, which is home prices, goes up. When the dotted red line goes up, the home prices come down. When the dotted red line, interest rates, comes down, home prices go up. And now, when the Fed is intentionally trying to slow the market, that's what Fed policy does. They want to speed up the market. They want to slow the market by manipulating interest rates. We see this incredibly huge ramp up from the end of 2020. And look what happened to the green line, what we're feeling out there in the marketplace. So it's important to understand when people go car shopping, for example, they have a monthly payment in mind. It's like, okay, I can spend $500 on the car. And you pick the car basically based on, the nicest car you could get for your monthly payment. Sometimes we forget, because real estate is so complicated, that the same dynamics are driving buyers to homes. A buyer can spend $5,000 a month, $7,000 a month, $10,000 a month. Well, when the cost of money is twice as much, then they can only pay half as much for the same payment. And that's what we're seeing as these red lines increase. The number of cash buyers is down 42% over the last 5 years. So at the same time that interest rates have spiked, pushing down sales and prices, the number of cash buyers has also fallen. The percent of cash buyers we saw in that earlier slide is still 60, 70%, depending on the price range, but the actual number of cash buyers has fallen significantly over the last 5 years. Look at Q2 that we just finished, right? We just finished Q2 at the end of June. There were 862 cash deals in Southeast Miami. Last year, Q2, 978. In 2021, peak insanity. Those were good times, right? In 2021, there was almost 1,500 versus 862 today. You can see that decline at the same time as interest rates have been spiking. The increase in interest rates, the decrease in cash buyers has in many ways caused the number of sales to fall significantly. So the number of sales in our market, and we're all feeling this, right? The number of sales in our market is down 50%. 50%, that's half as many deals over just the last couple of years. We did 1,910 transactions last quarter, 2,100 before that. And last year, remember, was slow. So comparing it to then, to be down from a slow year last year is a hit. But look at peak insanity 2021, 3,800 transactions in the second quarter, only 1,900 this year. And so we're all feeling that. Deals are harder to come by. We all have to be better at what we do to get deals done. The corollary to falling prices and transactions is an increase in inventory. And we're all feeling that. We're listing like crazy, which was great because our problem 3 years ago was none of us could get a listing, right? Now we have the opposite problem. We're getting tons of listings. We're grinding through showings, but it's hard to get them under contract. So homes are sitting on the market longer and inventory is increasing. On the single family side, there's 8 months of inventory between $3 and $5 million. And on average, those homes have been on the market for 149 days. Those sellers are starting to get antsy. Who do you think they're going to blame? Okay, it's not the interest rates. It's not the cash buyers who aren't coming anymore because there's only so many of them in the world. It's you guys because you're not marketing right. You don't have the right buyers. You're not showing it right. All of these things. It gets worse as prices increase. So right now, 10 million plus, and we're going to hear from our luxury panel right after this, there's 1.5 years of inventory, 10 million plus, that have been on the market an average of 280 days. Those sellers are definitely starting to get antsy. What's even more concerning is the list to sell ratio, which of all the stats is my absolute favorite stat. That tells us for every home that sells, how many are we putting back on the market? So not only is there almost a year of inventory of single-family homes between 5 and 7 million right now. But for every home we sell, we're putting 2.1 back in the market. Take one off, put two on. Take one off, put two on. As long as that continues, what do you think is going to happen to inventory? Take one off, put two on. Inventory is going to keep increasing. Days on market is going to keep elongating. The condo side is way worse. way worse. I'm sorry to tell the condo panel. At the lower end of the single family side, under 2 million, you still have, 4 months or less of inventory. That's still a pretty good seller's market. But on the condo side, even under 1 million, you're up to 7.5 months of inventory. Once you get to a $5 million condo, 3 years of inventory. And for every condo that we sell, we're putting 5 back on the market. Take one off, put 5 on. Take one off, put 5 on. What do you think is going to happen to condo inventory? $10 million condos? 7 years of inventory. That's like forever inventory. I mean, once you get to 7, it's like mathematically impossible. And for every condo we sell, we're putting 12 on the market, 10 million plus. Take one off, put 12 on. It's not all doom and gloom, though. Didn't want to end on a negative note when I'm about to call up the first panel and put him in a bad spot. I am long Miami, and I know all of you in this room are long Miami. Okay, we're taking a little breather right now, which is natural. Prices have doubled over just the past 5 years. And we're in a high interest rate environment where the Fed is, specifically trying to slow things down. It's not indicative of the value or quality of Miami. The Fed is largely driving this, as we saw from the tight correlation between interest rates and inflation and home values. Miami is going to do exceedingly well over the long term, okay? We have an amazing economy and tax scheme. 20, 30 years ago, Miami was fun in the sun. I mean, that's what we were. We were vacation homes, a fun place to visit. Right now, Miami is an international city with an amazing economy and a super friendly personal and business tax environment. Miami has a great lifestyle for businesses, for families, and that's attracting tremendous domestic and international wealth. And the more domestic and international wealth we attract, the better our economy becomes, and the more lifestyle and cultural infrastructure we build up, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I always like to remind people that in 2006, we were having talks just like this, okay? Prices were through the roof. People, thought, oh my God, Miami is so expensive. Who's going to pay these crazy prices? Well, let me ask you, who would love right now to buy a house at 2006 prices? Okay. Pinecrest in 2006 was like $200 a square foot. It's $900 right now. We're going to look back in 5 and 7 and 10 years, like today was 2006. Markets, go through cycles. Miami has an amazing future, and we need to be promoting that and reminding our buyers of that every day. As expensive as it seems now, if you don't buy in now, it's only going to get more expensive. In 2021, I'd be at an open house and all these New Yorkers would come and they'd tell me how overpriced everything is. While the ones who weren't smart enough to buy then, they're paying 100% more today. And the ones who won't buy today, they're going to wind up paying 50, 70, 100% more 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. So the best time to buy into Miami is right now. All right, let's call the first panel up, which is our luxury panel. We've got an amazing panel for you guys today. We've got Saddy Delgado from One Sotheby's. We've got Michael Martinez from One Sotheby's and Angel Nicolas from Compass. particularly good-looking panel. So, you guys all mic'd up and ready to go? All right.
Hello? Yeah.
I tricked the panelists, by the way. We had a Zoom yesterday or 2 days ago to like talk about what the questions were going to be, and I told them I was only going to ask like super easy stuff. But I have a whole stack of note cards with hard stuff, so...
No stats, please.
You know we can leave.
So let's see how they do. These questions are going to be to all of you one at a time. And as we discussed, let's give to the audience our best. We're all here to learn from each other. Sales $5 million and up have increased 573% over the last 5 years, and $7 million and up are up 683% over that time. 70% of all of those deals have been cash. 30 Allman Road in the Grove just closed for $33.5 million. 365 Arvida and Gables Estates just closed for $23.5 million. And the most expensive home in the history of Pinecrest just sold for over $14 million. So my question to each of you, and we'll start with Saddy, where are all of these wealthy cash buyers coming from? And what's attracting them to Miami in general and to the Southeast market in particular, say over Miami Beach or Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach? And what are you currently hearing from these buyers about the market?
Okay, thank you for being the first one to talk. Okay. Well, a good story, an example would be the last sale, which was Arvida, 365 Arvida. Closed for $23.5. The owner paid $8.9 5 years ago. He did very little to the house, and we sold it to a European buyer who had sold his property in Indian Creek to Jeff Bezos. So he's an international buyer, but he's kind of somewhat of a local buyer. So it's kind of like a sale and a purchase. So that's the story of that. That's a very good example of an actual example of where the buyers are coming. I think that the luxury market, the buyers are still the New York guys that might be renting still somewhere that they couldn't find a place to live, 2021, 2022, 2023. They're renting luxury homes maybe in Pinecrest or in the Grove, and they're still in the search to find the perfect home and are wishing the prices to come down, but they don't. So they're still kind of, I see people coming 1 year, and then I'm like, oh, Steve, you're still looking? Yeah, we're still looking. And then you're like, man, it's 3 years and you're still looking and you're still renting for $40,000 and $50,000 a month? Yeah. So I think they're here, but they are still, some of them are choosing to build. They don't find what they want because the inventory is low. In the ultra luxury, it's very low. So I think they still are choosing maybe to possibly build, and that's like a second, third, fourth option, but they have no choice because that's how dry the market is in the waterfront luxury market. So I'm seeing more tendency to, okay, I'll finally end up buying a lot and I'll go through the torturous process of building, and I'll spend 3 years in this project and I will end up building my perfect home. So I'm seeing a lot of that as opposed to I'll buy whatever there is and I'll settle.
Angel?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, man. This is incredible. I'm so grateful to be in this panel with all these rock stars. Thank you for that. Where are the buyers coming from? I think all over the world now, Miami has become the sexiest and hottest city in the entire world. And it used to be just Latin America, now it's everywhere. If you were a wealthy, Chinese, and wherever you want to call it in the world, you probably were thinking New York, LA in the past. Now you're thinking first Miami. So overall, Miami is just so attractive to the wealthy people, and money follows money. So when you see, Jeff Bezos and Ken Griffin, these big guys moving here, if you're like at the bottom of that world, guess what? You want to be rubbing shoulders with those guys, just like you want to be in this room if you're a new real estate agent. So that is attracting more and more money. I used to travel to New York in 2016, 17, 18, and pitch to my New York clients to buy in Miami, and they would always tell me, I'm not going to move to Miami, Angel. I'll buy a vacation home or rental property, but there's no money in Miami. I can't recruit people that can raise money for me, so they will stay over there. But now that's changed. And on top of that, Miami is freaking awesome. I mean, we live where people vacation. And those billionaires that are having Zoom calls with those guys here from their yacht, they're like, hold on, what the heck am I doing in this freezing cold Chicago or whatever the heck they are? So there's so many things that are making Miami much more attractive than before. And obviously, let's not even get into politics, but taxes is also a great reason why people are coming over here. And in terms of where people are seeing the value, these guys they know that, right? They want to be here. They want to set home here. This is not just a vacation home, like you said earlier. This is home. And we're seeing a lot of Mexicans coming now. There's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, and the United States is the safest place, believe it or not. And Miami has become the hottest city in the United States.
So, Mike, you are the new construction king. You've got one beautiful new construction home after the other for sale in Pinecrest. What's attracting wealthy buyers to luxury new construction in Pinecrest?
Again, Brian, thank you for setting this up. You guys hear me? Hello. Thank you. So, Brian, thank you for setting this up. This is amazing. So many familiar faces here that I think we've all had the pleasure to work together. So thanks for participating and sharing time with us. I'll piggyback a little bit of what Angel and Sadie said. There's a lot of beautiful homes out there. Buyers have more options today than they did 2 years ago, for sure. We're also seeing a lot of buyers being very picky on what they're looking for. So finishes are important, amenities are very important in these homes. And although these houses check off 95% of the boxes, there's still that small void where people feel that they want to sacrifice 3 years to build a home because they just can't find the right one. But there is a lot of nice product out there. Builders are gearing up, building better finishes, better amenities, and they're maximizing as much as they can with the beauty of some of these beautiful homes.
Steel is back. So as we saw, there's currently about a year and a half of inventory, 5 million and up in Southeast Miami. And nearly 2 years of inventory, 10 million and up. New listings are hitting like almost every single week. And when you drive around, it seems like you see a new home coming up on, almost every corner. What are you hearing from sellers? Because you all represent the top sellers in the community, a lot of developers. What are you hearing from sellers? And what strategies are you guys taking as inventory increases and these homes are sitting on the market longer and longer?
Reduce your price, be more realistic. I think in the ultra luxury market, the sellers there's no need to do anything. I'm a billionaire, I don't have to sell, I don't need it, I have 3 homes, I have 5 homes, this is what I want. And the billionaire buyers say the same. I don't have to. I don't need it. So it's like, so what do you want to have me working for a year and a half? That type of deal. There's no need. So I think it's like when they're ready, they do it. So you just have to be patient. Tell them I'm with you when you're ready. And you reduce your price. I have a penthouse, a $25 million penthouse at the Zaha. We've had it for 25. We reduced it to 23,750. We have 2 offers. So they just have to be ready in the ultra luxury.
Angel?
So very similar situation, right? These sellers, they still want COVID numbers that I call those the unicorn years. And we just have to educate them by asking the right questions for the right reasons at the right time. And my team and I have gotten pretty good at getting to the pain of why they want to sell, right? Because some of these guys, they don't really need to sell. So as long as we're on the same page, sometimes I let them know, so you have time, right? So you just want to kind of test the market. And as long as we're on the same page, we're good. I don't want them to be calling, 30 days, say, how come you haven't sold my home? You're the worst. Well, we had this conversation.
Oh, they're going to call anyway.
They will. And I like those phone calls because it gives me an opportunity to be like, well, if you really do want to sell, then...
I hate those calls.
Yes, I see that as an opportunity to be like, well, whenever you are ready, because how buyers make decisions, one thing is getting them to see the property, right? However we do this marketing, we all do amazing marketing. The other thing is having them make a decision, because they are going to look at other properties, right? Before they buy something, especially a $10, $20 million home, they're going to want to see what's out there. So how is your property going to be different than the other one? It's not just the sound system that's going to make the biggest difference, right? Or the marble and things like that. A lot of that has to do with the price and how we communicate with them. So just continuing to educate them.
So, Mike, you represent a lot of developers and builders who don't have the same mindset as some of these, homeowners who they stay, they go, whatever. This second
to make money.
Right. The clock is ticking and it's burning through sometimes pretty expensive hard money loans. What are you hearing, and what strategies are you currently employing to get those homes moving?
Yeah, a lot of it, it's a formula. It's not, there's no emotion. It's just a numbers game, right? It's an equation. So what I'm trying to explain to a lot of these guys or women or all the different developers, investors behind this is you need time right now, because buyers have choices. Your finishes have to be better. Your product has to really stand out. And you need slightly more time business plan, because a lot of, some of this hard money is very, very expensive. And it's a clock, it's a time, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on everyone. But right now, buyers have choices, and just, you got to gear up on those finishes. You got to make a better product, a lot of those amenities, and just really, stand out, make your product better than the next house they're going to see.
And also, Michael does a great job at staging. I think when you're building a house, obviously, people live in homes. My little house and schoolhouse, me and Brian, I told him to stage it. I'm like, look, you've got so much shit here. Like, come on, let's clean this up. And he's like, well, I live like this. I can't change my lifestyle. When people are living there, it's hard to get them to stage it as a brand new, built home when nobody lives there. So I think you do a great job. Presentation.
It's you walk into a car dealer and you expect that car is going to be nice and shiny, or if you're looking at a bag or whatever the case might be, it's all about presentation.
A date.
So real quickly, where do you see the market going the rest of this year and into next year?
Well, I'm very optimistic about this market. We just went through the summer, right? We're still in it. And historically, it's always been slow, except for the unicorn years. And on top of that, we're going into election, which also has people worried and, the unknown, and kind of, hold on, let me keep my money here. I don't know what the heck's going to happen. So we have to go through that. It's normal. It happens every 4 years. But I think that, like I said earlier, Miami is the sexiest city in the world right now. The wealth is coming here, and money attracts more money. And we're all blessed to be top producer real estate agents in Miami. So,
Sadie, next 6 to 12 months, the same, better, worse?
Better.
Michael?
I think we had a good summer, to be honest. I think it's going to get better. I think the whole year is a little delayed. I think the first quarter really shows numbers. Second quarter was much better. And to be honest with you, it's the best summer I've had in the last 3 years.
Amen to that. Let's thank the luxury panel. Thank you guys so much. Next, we're going to bring up our condo panel. On our condo panel, we've got David Siddons from Douglas Elliman, Allison Blumenthal from Brown Harris Stevens, and Jose Sosa from Compass.
Is mine good?
Yeah, let me flip it out so it's not so loud. I just inverse it so it's not so. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Test.
Okay. I'm hearing that keeping the mic away from our other mic will make the sound better. So we'll try that. Thank you guys for coming and lending your time and expertise. As you saw, the condo market's an interesting submarket. On the plus side, condo prices are up 136% over the last 5 years in Southeast Miami. The Grove is up 144%. It's been just an amazing transformation. And downtown is up 98%. Jose, what's attracting buyers to the Grove, to Key Biscayne, to Brickell, to downtown? How are you marketing and attracting those buyers? And what are you currently hearing from those buyers about the market?
Okay. First, thank you for having me, Brian. This is an amazing event, and we are so honored to be here with you sharing our experience. Miami is, as you said previously, is a very international city. We are seeing people from all over the world. It used to be a vacation home only, and now we're seeing people that want to live here. They want to, as they say, live, work, and play here in Miami. So I feel that Miami is a sexy city. We're living a dream city. We have professional teams. We have 4 professional teams. We have Formula One. We have a lot of events. We have tennis. We have all brands coming here to Miami, restaurants from all over the world. They opened their first location here in Miami. So Miami is now in top of the world. And, well, that's a very attractive point for them.
So, David, you are tapped into all of the condo market as much or more than any other agent I know, not just in Southeast Miami, but all the way up north. What are you hearing from buyers right now who are looking in Miami, whether they're local, they're international, and they're looking at condos?
So thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. First and foremost, my optics are very specific to what I'm experiencing, so I don't try to extrapolate and assume that my experiences are exactly like everyone else's. What I have seen is that I think there was comments made about buyers being a little bit more hesitant coming through. And what I found is I find them circling a lot. They're kind of coming through, they're looking at property, they're circling back. The interesting thing I found is that they're not going away. It's not like they're suddenly deciding not to buy. They're just like circling planes waiting to land. And the commonality that I found, whether they are coming from Europe or North America, or whether they're even locals looking to reposition themselves from one property to another, they're looking for that right property, and they just don't feel ready to settle for anything that isn't quite right. And there's such a severe lack of that high caliber product at what they consider to be digestible prices. If they find it and it's really special, it's at a price that's very hard for them to digest. And whether that's in Boca or whether that's down in Coconut Grove or in Brickell, I will say that in some markets I'm seeing certain different, because demographics vary, Coconut Grove, for example, I think its success has largely to do with the fact that there's a large migratory aspect to people coming into that market. It's not as much of a second home market. So they're really looking to put their base. And because of that, equally, the sellers are also base sellers. So it's their home, and they're having a harder time shifting out from those high numbers. So, it's like, where do I go next? This story, I think, is systematic through the market. Some markets a little easier, maybe Brickell, but other markets that we're seeing, surprisingly enough, although we see, on paper, thousands and thousands of units on the market, new stuff coming in every day, stuff that really we look at and go, wow, that's amazing, I've got to share that. That's harder and harder to find.
Part of today is getting some sound bites, and I'm going to steal digestible prices. I love that. Digestible prices. So, Allison, you've been selling the Grove for a while, and you've seen this amazing transformation in the Grove, not just as prices have gone up 145%, but as the Grove has revitalized. What are you hearing from buyers? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I actually represent more sellers, the ones that want to sell for top dollar. And there's no comps, and there's, learned about all these stats from you. So I'm like thrilled I came here and learned, and my sellers want a price. They don't care. And I've learned a lot from them, because there is going to be a buyer that is going to get the home. It might not be the first one, it might not be the second, but it's all emotions that I've noticed where almost all my sales come from. It's also the relationships with all the other agents. Someone will call me and say, what do you have at Grove at Grand Bay? What do you have? What do you have? You tend to do a lot of off-market deals, and I think having the relationships with other agents and us all coming together and help each other, that makes it a very successful real estate business, your relationships.
I couldn't agree more. In the Grove, we have Mr. C's just starting
Beautiful.
to close. I reached out for you for an off-market, just like you said.
Yes.
Vita's under construction. The Four Seasons is breaking ground in Brickell. We've got the St. Regis, 1428. The new Mandarin Oriental is coming on Brickell Key. Baccarat, Mercedes-Benz. There's a gazillion others. In downtown, we've got the Aston Martin, the Waldorf, 11, and others. So, Jose, what's driving all of this development in Southeast Miami? Which are your favorite new projects? Who's buying all of these new luxury condos? How much of these buyers are investors versus primary residents versus second homes? And finally, how do you market and sell new development condos differently than resale condos?
That's a great question. As we said previously, Miami is an international city, so all developers, they are competing among themselves. Everybody wants to have their brand in Miami. We are seeing all those brands like Mandarin, we're seeing Dolce & Gabbana, we're seeing Four Seasons, Aston Martin. We are seeing very important firms, they want to be here, Cipriani. So it's about lifestyle. So if you are a fan of some brand like Dolce & Gabbana, you want to have a piece of that and call that your home. And most of these buyers right now are end users. That's a big change that we had before, because for many owners, makes sense to call that their home, and they want to see is the movie, not the picture. They say, okay, I plan to be here for 20 years, 10 years. So if they are no long-term short-term investor, they are long-term investors. So that's their goal. And they are coming from everywhere. They're coming from New York. They're coming from Latin America. They're coming from Europe, Asia. So as you know, Miami is a melting pot. We have people from all over the world, and they love to be here.
So David, I follow you closely.
Likewise.
And you do a lot of insider condo tours on your super information-packed website. So you're tapped into all of these new developments. Which are your favorites? How many buyers are you getting from your website and your YouTube and these buyer tours? And what are people looking for in these new condos?
Great question. So we get somewhere around 4,000 registrations, buyer registrations a year through the site. A lot of new construction inquiries. My favorites, I really like the Mandarin. I think it's a great product.
I do too.
I think that, I've done these studies, and resort product is always the one that wins, whether it's Four Seasons and Surfside, or whether if you go back and remember how Continuum did so well with that kind of resort environment, it's the resort level products at scale that do really, really well. So I do like Mandarin. I do like Vita on Groval. I think it's a very hard question sometimes to ask because it's horses for horses. There are so many different products, and it depends what your client needs and wants. So it's really hard to say, right, this is the best for everyone. It's very subjective. So what was the next part? So condo specific, and then...
are they primary owners, investors, second homes?
It's been really fascinating to see. We've had inquiries from literally every country I can think of. Like every single country, people will come in. Of course, we've got, a lot of the New York crowd, California crowd, but less than geographic. I think it's more about the psychology, the demographic kind of profile of these people. Psychologically, they're all long on Miami. Buyers of new construction are far less sensitive to interest rates because they're looking at 4 or 5 years from now, and they're looking at the long-term growth of the city, and they're looking at the expansion, and they're noticing the big companies moving in, and the population change, the population replacement. So their psychology is very much long-term. And what I'm seeing is a lot of primary buyers, people where it's going to be, their primary home. Surprisingly, there's been a lot of wealth that's been created in the last 5 years, and now I think we're seeing I'm experiencing a lot of people who are selling their companies or cashing out big on different businesses that they have, and they're coming in pretty heavy, and I think that accounts for some of the big sales that we've seen. At the same time, the lower entry-level investors recognize the growth of Miami, and they're like, how can I get a foothold? What can I get? Which is surprisingly harder to do than it used to be. Getting something under 2 million might sound obnoxious, but it's surprisingly not as easy as you think it is. So, yeah.
So, Allison, $3,000 a foot for the Four Seasons in the Grove. What has changed so much over the Grove over the past 5, 10, 15 years, and where do you see the Grove going?
People love the urban lifestyle, the walkability, the shopping, the restaurants, the cafes, movies, just not needing their car. There's just so much in the little town of Coconut Grove. And people want easy lifestyle. So a lot of my buyers that I have, they come to me for condos because they travel, they want to lock up, they want and they're willing to pay the price for the quality of life. I wish all of our buyers were like that, but I have that for some reason, these kind of buyers come through or recommended to me, and they're ready to buy.
So, Jose, you saw the chart where condo inventory is accumulating quickly, even at the low end and especially at the higher and higher ends. And condos are sitting on the market longer and longer, especially some of these older buildings. I'm sure a lot of your sellers are getting antsy. What are you hearing from your sellers? What are you telling them? How are you navigating this current environment to be successful?
Well, yeah, the market, the inventory is increasing and the prices, the market is slowing down. But people need to see the movie completely, the cycle. There is always a cycle in every economic industry, and real estate is not the exception. So if you look back to 2006, as you mentioned, or 2015, or during the pandemic, okay, I always say, you want this amount of money for your condo, but how much do you pay? Or in 2022, 2021, what's this price? Well, if you want that, you need to wait. So it depends. Every customer is different. If they really want to sell right now, they need to adjust their prices or be open to offers. Because I think that, if you want to realize a big capital gain, a big profit, you need to either wait or be adjusted to the current market.
So, Allison, you and I almost got a deal done at the Grosvenor House. Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
That's why I'm asking.
Is that why I'm on this panel?
It's one of the reasons.
That was interesting.
And you got them to reduce, which I had pushed you to do, but we made an offer before it even hit the market, and it was early. You got them to reduce, and then you immediately put under contract. How are you having those conversations with sellers that start at extremely ambitious numbers, make me move prices?
Exactly.
To get them down, not a ton. They didn't drop a lot. They dropped just to the next level, and bam,
this
under
is
contract.
why I'm exhausted. Most of my clients want to start out super high. They don't care what the stats are. I know I said that before. But my younger self probably wouldn't have taken the listing. My older self has said, someone's going to come right behind me and list it at the price they want. So I might as well do this. Even though I dislike doing that so much because I feel like you're doing a disservice. So I tell them, okay, I'll list it at this, but just letting you know, kind of what you said, I can't promise. There's not any comps for this. And we start, but I let them know in a month, if I don't see activity, we need to reduce. And with that specific sale, Brian and I, he got in before I listed it. And what's interesting, we sold it at this $50,000, a little more than our first offer. First offers are always the best,
We would have come up.
But I know, but you had a special buyer and I had a special seller. The seller didn't care about selling.
And mine didn't care about buying.
Exactly. And you know why I sold for $50,000 more? Because I knew you were going to see that closed sale. I had to get it a little higher.
So, David, parting words, condo inventory up, lots of new development, Long Miami, so many great projects, so many great submarkets. Where do you see the market going for the next 6 months, 5 months this year into next year?
I haven't found it a bad year this year so far. Actually, we've been blessed. It's actually been pretty good. I think that now the summer is coming to an end. We're going to see more inventory coming in of better quality. I've already just come back from vacation. Already had a bunch of calls from clients who said, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get things going." So I think as long as we have some good quality product coming into the system, we're going to be fine. The buyers are absolutely there. They're there. And we just have to work our sellers. What I do think is going to continue, which is something that's happened through this year, I think for a lot of us have talked about that, it's been mentioned, is the off-market deals. And the great thing about this room is everyone together is the ability to network and talk. I feel we've done more off-market transactions this year than I can remember doing last year. And I think that's one thing that buyers always feel like they're looking for, I don't know, a deal or something special. And I think that off-market product affords that kind of chance and that feeling that the buyer gets that they're getting something that other people won't get. And I think that we'll continue to see a lot more off-markets. We don't have a lot of inventory. I don't see it so easy to get more inventory in. I mean, the Grow, for example, and the high-level product, it's really hard to, we're constantly having conversations. I lose track of how many chats that I might have had, with Allison Jessica, with Lani, with anybody at the panel, and we've talked about what have you got. I'm looking for a unit in Park Grove. I'm like, yeah, me too, and 50 other people. It's like the same story. So I think if we can get some of that going, I think we're starting to see some of the sellers starting to bring down as well. I think that'll get more realistic. I'm seeing that definitely in the urban core. We're seeing a lot of reductions coming in at the luxury end. And it'll be interesting to see how some of the new products that are just opening, how they do, because I think a lot of those owners are not end users. They bought it as investments. So we'll see how much product we get through from Mr. C and other new buildings that are opening their doors. Aston Martin's a good example in downtown. We just did a deal a couple of days ago for a contract for something there. So I'm bullish about the next year.
So all you guys who raised your hands that you've got buyers who can't find something that they want to buy, you just heard from two panelists that they're doing more off-market deals now than they've done in recent years. And part of our job isn't just to sit around and look at the hot sheet and put a listing in the MLS and wait for the calls to come. You got to pick up the phone and get old-fashioned, start banging the phone, talking to everybody in this room and in your companies. These are why relationships in this industry and right now especially are so important. There are off-market deals happening every day that a lot of us don't even know about because we're not working our network like the people who are succeeding. How much money do you think you made this year on off-market deals?
Just in the last month alone, I think we probably closed about 25 to 30 million.
That's a reason enough? Like we should just stop right now? That's reason enough to start working the damn phone.
Yeah, I think that, and there's so many ways. I'd like to add to that. I think there's so many ways to communicate to each other. Even if you kind of like DM someone or you put it on your Instagram, say, hey, I'm looking for this. Send an email out, get everyone on the group, and just say, hey, I'm looking. Because it's surprising how many people in the room, I'm sure, will have product that they have that's off market that the seller said, you know what, bring me a buyer and I'll sell. And how many of us constantly we get a buyer, the phone goes, that buyer says, this is what I'm looking for. We go to the MLS and we're like, I got nothing.
I remember we didn't have social media in the past 10 years. Before that, we didn't have social media. So now we have so many ways to communicate.
Thank you, guys. Amazing insights on the condo market. Really appreciate your time. Okay, moving on to the Grove and Gables panel. We've got Lani from Lowell International Realty. Yay, Lani. Jessica Adams from Douglas Elliman, and Lauren Allan from Compass. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, so home prices in the North and South Grove and in the North and South Gables have basically doubled in the last 5 years, an amazing run. The average sale price in the South Grove this year is $4.5 million. In the North Grove, it's $2.9 million. And even the West Grove is averaging almost $1.2 million right now, which is insane. The average in the South Gables is $5.5 million, and the North Gables almost $1.6 million. So Lani, where are all of these wealthy buyers coming from, and what's attracting them to the Grove and the Gables in particular? How do you and your agents market to and attract these buyers, and what are you currently hearing from them about the market?
Can you hear me okay? I want to make sure I'm holding the microphone in the right spot. First of all, Brian, I want to thank you so much for putting this together, you and your entire team. And I know your mom is here. My dad was my business partner, and I worked with him for so many years. And I feel him with me all the time. And I feel Joanne in this room. I know we all do. And she would be so proud of you.
Thank you.
So Gables and Grove, I am super bullish on Long Miami. That needs to be our hashtag on all of the posts that we do after today. Long Miami, Long Miami. I know some of you are already doing that, but let's all do it, because I grew up here. I've been here my entire life. I live in the house that I grew up in. And I have watched Miami change by leaps and bounds. The multicultural Miami back when I was growing up consisted of people from Cuba. That's it. And today, and by the way, I'm super thankful to everybody, to the Cuban population, because I really think in large part they put Miami on the map. And we have a lot to be thankful for that. But over the years, it has grown and grown and grown. And when you leave Miami, you realize how multicultural this city is. And it's almost like it feels weird when you get outside of the city and you realize what other parts of the country are like. So I know that's why we're all here and why we love it so much. Our buyers of late are coming from the places that you're seeing, a lot of domestic buyers coming from the Northeast, coming from California, coming from, Midwest. And certainly the tax situation here is very favorable. Our education system here is awesome. Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Pinecrest are home to some of the best schools, not just in Miami, but in the county, in the state, and in the nation. And I think a lot of people in the Northeast really discounted us for a while. The education snobs, if you will, were like, oh, your schools can't compare. And they are, and they're really rising to the occasion. The bar is continuing to go up, and I think these institutions are going to continue to flourish and grow and expand to the community's needs. We've got this whole renaissance of food and culture. And, when I was growing up here, the only industry that we had was hospitality and construction. That was it. Now you've got tech, finance, healthcare. Our economy here is so broad. So I absolutely am along Miami, and I think Miami's like this beautiful flower that's starting to bloom, and like 40% of the petals have only opened yet. It's going to continue and continue and just get better and better. And a lot of these companies that you read about, obviously Citadel, Apple, other companies that are moving here, they've they're still building out their office space. So we got the first wave. That's going to continue in the next, 2 to 5 years. I mean, that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. We're definitely feeling pain points in the market. And one of the things that first of all, I think interest rates have been, have really contributed to that. I think they're going to go down in September and maybe again at the end of the year. But I think that's going to take a lot of people off of the fence. They're going to jump in and engage with the market. So I think that's definitely going to happen. There's a lot of people, I completely agree with the last panel, just kind of sitting, watching, waiting to make decisions. I think there's our frustration that we hear over and over again that there's not enough good inventory. So I think we need to do a better job, even when we sell somebody a home, telling them how to maintain a home. I have my roofer come out and inspect my roof every year. I get my windows caulked. You over the years need to modernize your houses. And I think when we go in and people haven't done that for a long period of time, the land value of these neighborhoods, especially east in the Grove and in the Gables, it's so high now that some of the structures on these properties, like, you've really got to keep that value up, or you're looking at land value, I think, in some instances. So there's definitely a frustration with that. We're seeing a lot of new construction in Gables and Grove. And one thing that's a pain point that I just want to say, because I know there's a lot of people representing developers, about the quality and the finishes in these houses. I think it's our buyers want to know who's the builder, not just the developer, but like who's the general contractor? What's the name of the company? What else have they built? What's my experience with them going to be? If I'm going to buy it while the house is under construction, what's that going to be like? Are there references? And I find that a lot of the marketing of these homes, the builders are kind of like, you don't really know, who's the architect, who's the, and some of them do a great job, but other ones don't. And so I would just ask as a buyer, when we're representing buyers, that's something that would be really, really helpful.
Thank you. And poetic. I like the flower blooming and the whole, that's... So Jessica in the Grove, your nickname.
It's so funny because people know me as that.
Jessica in the Grove.
Outside of Miami that kind of know that's my handle, Jessica _ in the Grove. Yeah.
So who are all these buyers? Why do they love the Grove so much? 4.5 million average in the South Grove right now.
I'm seeing, and I think I have seen over the last 5 years, it's just a massive migration of families. I think the biggest transition that Miami has made, especially in the Grove and Gables, is people want the urban lifestyle because they're coming from an urban lifestyle. So they're not, like my clients, if I ask them, and Michael and I talk about, I'll have a client that'll be like, okay, maybe Pinecrest, maybe Coral Gables. And 9 times out of 10, they'll end up in the Gables. And that's, they're willing to give up the space, and they're willing to give up, some of, the personal, I guess just space in general, just to be in the urban lifestyle and to have that walkability. The other main thing that I've had with a lot of my clients that are families is the schools. They want to be able to walk and drop off their kids from school. I actually have a client right now that they go to Carrollton with my girls and they bought out west, and she's like, I need to sell the house. I have to be back in the Gables or the Grove. I can't do this anymore. And I think that was one of the things that happened during COVID, was that we didn't have the traffic situation that we currently have. Something that used to take a 20-minute drive now takes an hour drive. And when you have to go back to school 3 times for 3 different drop-offs, it's driving people crazy. So people are willing to have the smaller house on the postage stamp lot to be able to have their kids walk to school in the morning. I mean, I have so many people that want the gated community. Like, I have one right now, only the moorings. I only want the moorings. I don't care what you do. And listen, that's where the off-market stuff comes in. A lot of the bigger deals that I do in the Grove, are my communication with all the other agents. And I think if I learned that a long time ago, that clients come and go, but your relationships with the other agents in this industry is your key to your success. And I think for me, that has been the key to my success in the last 13 years, is that people know that they can trust me. People know that I'm not going to go after their clients. People know that I bring really good buyers, and that I'm ruthless. I will not get this deal done for you no matter what.
You're ruthless?
Yeah. I mean, listen, when it comes to my clients and getting them a good deal and getting the deal done, for sure. I mean, I think that your clients need an advocate. And the one thing that we noticed, and I think this room is the perfect postage stamp for the real realtors in this community. And I think the problem is that the fly-by-night realtors, as we see this transition, and as we see, you can't just send your client, your mom can't be your realtor on a $10+ million deal where you're making the phone calls and these things are happening. You actually have to work for what you're doing now. Not that we haven't, but I think we're going to see a big transition with that. And I think the relationships, I mean, I've had plenty of time. I mean, I can think of one like with Meg and Leslie that we had during like the peak of the thing of, the good times, the unicorn days, where I think they had like 14 offers on the table. And in the end, I mean, yes, I got my client to the number they wanted. I mean, that was off fees number, but they also knew that they wanted to work with me, right? They knew that they weren't going to take someone that had no idea what they were doing, that they would rather work with me on the other end of the deal. And I think that's important for all of us. And I think off markets and those type of things. But I think when you're not looking at investors like we used to have, people that used to come into this market, I think when you're looking at buyers that want something very particular about what they want, I think the one thing that I've learned over the last 3 years with some of these New York and California buyers is us educating them on what Miami used to be and what Miami is now, because their expectations of what they're looking for is here, and what we had was here. So having them understand, it's not that we don't want to give you the $20 million home that has all these incredible things. That never existed. So some of these bigger homes or these older, 1980s, 1990s, non-renovated, and their expectation is, well, if I'm paying that number, it has to be perfect. And I think it's managing everybody's expectations of what there is. And I think that's why, like you're seeing people building their own stuff, because that doesn't exist. It's not that we don't want to sell it, it's that it truly doesn't exist in our market.
So Lauren, the price in the Grove and the Gables has doubled over the last 5 years. What are you seeing?
Well, first I wanted to say Joanne had so much love and respect for both of you, and she would love this all-female panel right now, and so I'm incredibly honored and privileged to be up here with the two of you. So the buyers that we've seen for the Grove and Gables, I joke sometimes when I meet new people that it's like some memo went out to everyone relocating from New York, California, the Midwest, that Coconut Grove is where you want to be. And that's why you see that incredible price growth in Coconut Grove as compared to some of the other neighborhoods. And then when people get priced out of Coconut Grove, they say, okay, show me Coral Gables. And the reason people are so fixated on Coconut Grove and Coral Gables, I believe, is, as Jessica said, they're coming from an urban lifestyle. So they do want some walkability. They do want a lifestyle. They do want to be able to run out for a cup of coffee. They want to be able to drop their kids off easily. And when they can't find it in Coconut Grove, and not to say that Coral Gables is always second fiddle or a backup plan to Coconut Grove, because it has its own charm, and I think a lot of people are either diehard Grove or diehard Gables, they will consider things that are similarly proximal to downtown, similarly proximal to the water or on the water, and they'll leave kind of the diehard belief that they need to be in Coconut Grove. I live in Pinecrest, but Coconut Grove is my favorite neighborhood in Miami, and I think a lot of people who came here early in this 5-year trajectory figured that out too. Wow, the Grove is so cool. Wow, the Grove has this eclectic feel, these great houses. If you like something interesting, Coconut Grove has it. And so that's what we're seeing. And I echo Jessica that a lot of those people are families, and one or both spouses has been relocated here for work, and they're pleasantly surprised to find that they really enjoy it here. I think there used to be this kind of stigma associated with Miami that, as many people said, this is a place of you vacation, but serious people don't live here. And I was born and raised here, so I disagree, but I think it takes time for people from these other major metropolitan areas who had beautiful lifestyles and quality of life there to come here, to settle in, and to send word back to their colleagues, their friends, their families, oh, hey, you're going to like it here too.
So, Lani, 68% of homes for sale in the North Grove are over $3 million. 68% over $3 million. And they've been on the market an average of 218 days with over 8 months of current inventory. In the South Grove, 60% of homes for sale are over $4 million. They've been on the market an average of 163 days with 8.7 months of inventory. In the South Gables, 53% of homes for sale are over $5 million. Been on the market an average of 306 days. With 8.5 months of inventory. And in the North Gables, 56% of homes are for sale for $2 million or more, on the market 138 days, currently 10 months of inventory. So the question for each of you, starting with Lani, is what are you hearing from sellers, and what strategies are you currently employing to get sales done in this environment?
So, wow. I see a huge reluctance from our buyers to look at some of these houses that have that long days on market. We live in an instant gratification society, and I think if your house hasn't sold and it's hitting 100, 120 days, our buyers are saying, what's wrong with it? Why is it sitting there? And they've already passed it over, and they're not giving it they've already, and your seller will say, well, if it's too high, why am I not getting offers? Why aren't people making offers? They're not even calling the listing agent to talk about it because you're missing the mark. So I think we've got to not be afraid to have these honest conversations. I respect our sellers so much and tell them that. And, we are trusted advisors. This is the data. This is the information. How do you think your home compares to, let's look at the 5 other homes in your price range. How does your home compare to that? Pick up the pictures, show them, take them to the houses. So it's those kinds of conversations that I think are really important, and explaining to them that I think of like the pack of wolves. I always explain that. So I say, there's a pack of wolves of the market that, this is the serious market that's getting, that's looking for a house. They've got their search criteria set up that their realtor's sending them or that Zillow's sending them. And as soon as your listing pops up, if you're not seizing on it, then your listing has already been considered, scratched off the list, and moved on. So I think that that's a really important conversation to have.
One of the things that I like to tell our sellers is not just how does your home compare, but it almost doesn't matter, because when there's only maybe 1 or 2 sales this whole year in your price range, in your neighborhood, even if you're better than option B, C, and D, buyers are choosing E, which is to do nothing. So you also, if you really want to sell, and a lot of sellers don't, they're make me move sellers, and that's fine. We take that ride. We're there to make them move. But for sellers that are really motivated, that want to sell, they have to understand that there's this option, E, which is, it's not just how you compare it to the other 50 homes that are on the market, but buyers right now, they're kind of on the sidelines, circling, waiting, for something they really fall in love with at a price they can digest. Love that. So, Jessica, how are you dealing with your increasingly frustrated sellers? What are you hearing from them? What are you telling them?
So I think it depends what seller you have in front of you. I think if you're sitting with a developer, it's a lot easier of a conversation because you're really looking at numbers, and they are, like you said, they're carrying something that they need to sell. They didn't do it for fun. They're looking to make money. And I think those people, I would like to say, are a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more realistic. I feel the one thing that I find fascinating as we're going through this huge conversation is, where were all these sellers in 2021? Or in 2022, I find it absolutely fascinating that it's just 2 years later, but now they're deciding to come into the market. I feel like it's back in 2012 when people were looking for when you got a call for a foreclosure in 2015, and you were like, where were you 5 years ago? Because foreclosures don't exist anymore. But I feel like that's kind of where we are. I feel there's right now, the biggest challenge is the disconnect between the buyers and the sellers, and we're the bridge. And I think the biggest challenge is us as agents being the educational tool to let them understand these statistics. To be honest, Brian, it's funny, I have a lot of I'm one of those people, kind of rare. I do 50% buying and 50% selling, so I feel like I'm pretty astute with when a seller asks me what feedback and things like that. I know because I'm hearing it from my buyers so much. But I think in this market, my frustration right now is the sellers that are like, well, I put $400,000 into this and I have to get it out. And it's like, okay, you bought it for under $1 million, you put in $400,000, but now you want $3 million. The math doesn't really make sense, right? But they'll only sell for that $3 million mark, and it's probably worth 2.5. So those type of things, I think one of the challenges I think the other challenges is us kind of coming together as a real estate group and not just taking the overpriced listings, really having that educational tool. I will say over the last 6 months, I've lost several listings where I've given them the number that they ended up selling at, or they took it with someone else, and 6 months later, it's still sitting on the market. So sometimes maybe it's not, maybe you don't give them that number. Maybe you actually say, I'm willing to take the chance that I'm going to be the second agent and that I'm actually going to get it sold. Which has happened actually several times this year. I think that the seller's education is the number one thing right now, and also educating the buyers. I think we also have to look at what the media is putting out there for these buyers and understand that in their mind, it almost is crying wolf. I mean, the media is really showing everybody that, things are bad, things are really, going in the other direction. So they think they're going to get the deal of a lifetime. And the sellers are like, no, you're not going to get the deal of a lifetime because this is what I want and this is what I'm willing to sell for. So I think the long Miami view that we're all talking about is so important with these buyers as well, because I think if you talk about where Miami is going and that if you're not looking to sell in the next 2 years, what is the difference whether you pay $900 a square foot versus $975 or $1,000 per square foot, which is the Grove average right now, or $1,100 a square foot. If you're really going to keep it for the next 5 to 10 years, that number is going to be probably $2,000 a square foot at the rate we're going. So I think it's kind of getting the perspective and really digging into these buyers and sellers. And I'm hoping that I do see it getting better, because I feel like we're in a match right now of who's going to win the tug of war right now. And I think once we get in a better state where we start realizing that, the sellers are going to have to come down. I mean, you see all the price reductions, and, and having them understand that it's okay to do a price reduction. It's actually better if we started and we did that month and it didn't go well and you didn't get it sold the way you wanted to, just drop it. And you'll see the massive difference that it gives, that boost of that listing. Because I really do think as much as we all market and do everything, price matters.
Price definitely matters. So Lauren, bring it home. How are you dealing with increasingly frustrated sellers who want absolute top dollar for homes in a stagnating market?
Yeah, and we have some very frustrated sellers, just to keep it real. I think it depends, as Jessica said, although I'm going to take a slightly different twist on it, what type of seller you're talking to, right? We have, as Brian said, some of those make me move, pie in the sky sellers. Those people, we tell them, and we mean it. We'll keep shooting for your stars. We'll keep trying to reach your goals. We educate continually. Here's what the market's doing in your price point. Here's what the market's doing in your neighborhood. But we'll go along to a degree on that ride with them. And some of those people get more realistic with time because their needs change, because their goals change, and some people don't. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of where we're at in the market. And the people who need to sell or truly want to sell, they're leaving town, they're upsizing, they're downsizing. Those people are kind of caught in between folklore and logistics, and it's making them pretty rigid on their price. And the problem, a problem, is they're still seeing that prices have continually gone up. I mean, Brian shared a slide where year over year, the prices in the Grove and Gables have gone up crazy amounts. And they're hearing, oh, but my neighbor got $1,100 a square foot. My house is nicer than my neighbor's, so I won't accept anything less than $1,100 a square foot. And the problem with that is they have a very micro look on the market and their neighborhood, but they're not seeing what we're seeing from buyers, which, as David said, they're circling. They're not in a hurry. They've been stretched financially and psychologically to a breaking point, and they quite frankly don't want to pounce on anything anymore, and they're not going to pounce on it unless it's absolutely perfect. And despite accumulating inventory, none of the inventory, or most of the inventory, is not fantastic. So they're making sacrifices, they're making compromises, and they're doing it at higher than ever prices with higher interest rates. So I think it's partly our job, and it's something we're doing very regularly, to be honest and repetitive about, we understand this is your goal, right? Because no seller wants to feel like you're not on their team. Mm-hmm. And no seller wants to feel like you don't understand what they want and where they're coming from. And this is a huge asset for our sellers. I mean, some of these people, this is their final major asset before they move into a retirement phase of their life. And so it's not that we don't want to get you that record-breaking price. It's just that buyers aren't out there wanting to pay it for your home any longer. And so we have ongoing conversation from the time we list, and when we meet with people pre-listing, we say, we'll list where you're comfortable. Here's what the market dictates. Here's a range. It's always a dance between how quickly you want to sell and how much money you want to make. And then we agree on a price together. And then from the day we list, we're providing honest, consistent market information and buyer feedback. Because truthfully, there are homes that have inherent flaws. And the only way to overcome those inherent flaws is a reduction in price. Because at a certain price, someone's going to pay for those inherent flaws. But if you're shooting for the stars, nobody's going to overlook the fact that you're on the corner of a busy road. So we're constantly telling after every showing, we hear you. Yes, they loved the thing you love about your house, but this came up again. This came up again, and then weekly, bi-weekly, we're giving market information so they understand how things are shifting in real time.
Great insight, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have one more panel left. I know we're getting to the end of our time. Appreciate all of your patience. We have a great panel on Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, and the suburbs with three guys who have sold more homes in those areas than almost any other agent. Drew Kern from EWM. Evan Goldman, I got to change, Evan Goldman from Remax. And Adam Levy from Compass. Okay, well, this is almost changing. I'll ask the first question. Oh, all right, look at that. Good-looking guys. Prices in Pinecrest have doubled over the last 5 years and now average nearly $3.5 million. Palmetto Bay is up 108%, and the average price is now almost $1.3 million, Palmetto Bay. And the Falls Baptist area is up 189% over the past 5 years to an average of almost $1.7 million. What are you guys seeing and experiencing in those suburbs that are driving this amazing growth? Drew.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you, and thanks for putting this together. You know, what I'm seeing in Palmetto Bay and South Pinecrest are the people that aren't buying Michael's listing, but they're working for the people buying Michael's listings. You know, they've got to live in a place where they can walk the dog at night and enjoy great schools and safety and appreciation. They're the ones who are, you know, rolling up their sleeves at the hospitals and at the universities and really working, and they want to be close to where the CEOs are living, but they can't necessarily afford $1,000 a square foot, but $500 or $600 really seems reasonable to them, given where we are in the market. And I think we're seeing that across the highway as well. I see a lot of increase in value on the west side of US 1 just because the traffic is so bad. People will pay a little more to go across US 1 than they used to. Used to be a discount if you crossed US 1. Now there's not, because you can be a little further north and get in those same great neighborhoods, same walkability, and same great schools.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here, and I also just want to touch on what Lani said, that for two of us who work with our moms, we know your mom would be incredibly proud of you and of today and of everybody in this room, and having dealt with her intimately on several deals where we would talk about you or talk about my business partner. It was always a good time. So hitting on what Drew said, land. You want space, you want room to roam, you want to have soccer practice or basketball practice in your backyard, come on down south. We have the room, we have more affordable homes, and it's interesting because places have gotten to be so expensive. I'm sure all of us have several buyers in the $800,000 to $1.5 million range, which is a pretty good budget, right? I'm sure most of us bought our first homes for a lot less than that, and they can't find anything in all these areas that we're sort of talking about. So you have to get creative. Another thing that I'll say as it relates to sort of land and west of the highway, a lot of those lots, and I think you saw the number of the Baptist Falls area going up year over year. I think it was 58%. There's a lot of nice acres in East Kendall, around Baptist, near Baptist, That was untapped, and now, I mean, you would be hard pressed to find a house there 5 and 10 years ago that sold over 2 or 2.5 even, and now there's places selling for 3 and 4 over there. You can get something that's not updated, that's pretty well built, but it's still going to cost you between 2.5 and 3 now. So buyers have definitely had to expand and sort of move, I think, around all of these changes, all of these luxury buyers, and land is still king. I mean, look at what acres have done since 2008, 2009, when the market crashed. Those Pinecrest acres have truly more than tripled in those sort of in that northeast Pinecrest quadrant, and that's unheard of. And the sort of settlement we've had in pricing in Pinecrest especially, I find that is happening in the half-acre homes. And the acre homes, even if it's in south or southwest Pinecrest, those values are still up a little bit, and it's not the segment of the market that's sort of driving it down a little bit over the last year and a half.
Adam, you're having a great year this year. What are you seeing and feeling out in the burbs?
Got it. Well, thank you for the opportunity again, Brian, and this esteemed panel and every other panelist. I'll look back at when my parents moved me here in '78 and bought a $78,000 house that was now Palmetto Bay. My wife and I bought that similar area 25 years later at $260,000, and now 25 years or so later, that house is now 1.5. So really, the area of Palmetto Bay, to me, that we call home, is incredible. The buyers are definitely challenged right now. We see the buyers facing these high interest rates. These buyers are facing high insurance and taxes. And these are the buyers that, as Drew said, these are the buyers that want to be in the Grove or the Gables. But really, at 1.2 and change is the average selling price, and 1.8 in Palmetto Bay is the average list price. These are excellent neighborhoods. These are neighborhoods where people, they want to come in to be near the parks and be near the schools, the private schools, the public schools. But we're just seeing the buyers come in. They're wanting everything in that 4 million range. They still want it in the 1.5 range. And so we try to educate our sellers to make the best of their house. If you have a beautifully maintained home that still needs to be updated, that's great. Get it as clean and decluttered as possible. But we know that these buyers want the big ticket items done. They want that roof, the galvanized pipe removed. They want impact. And if you don't have it, then of course you're going to be, looking for an adjustment in price. So that's really the story in Palmetto Bay. But really, Area 50 is an area that I've concentrated on for a long time. Area 50 runs from Kendall Drive to 184th and from the Bay all the way to 117th. And what's amazing about it, it includes, of course, Palmetto Bay and Pinecrest, but that area, Area 50, the average list price today is $3 million. The average sold price is 1.5, from $741 asking price right now in Area 50 down to $541 for a sold price in Area 50. That's incredible numbers. So I'm very proud to be working.
You're trying to show me up on these numbers?
Trying to be proud. We're proud working this area.
I love that insight. I really didn't know that Area 50 was 3 million average list and $1.5 million strike. That's amazing. That'll lead into this a little more tough question. 69% of the homes for sale in Pinecrest are over $3.5 million right now. They've been on the market an average of 196 days, and there's a year of inventory. In Palmetto Bay, nearly half the homes for sale are over $1.5 million. They've been on the market 139 days on average, and there's 7 months of inventory. And in the Falls Baptist area, 53% of homes for sale are over $2 million, with 119 days on the market and 14 months of inventory. You guys are all heavy listing agents. I'm sure you're hearing it from your sellers. What are you hearing? What are you doing about it?
Yeah, I'll say this. Even with all those stats, we still need good inventory. We have lots of inventory. We need good inventory, and that's either what's on the market now needs to adjust in how it's being shown, the condition that the seller's showing it in, or the price. And I think we're going to continue to see that. So good inventory is always important. You've heard it from the rest of this great panel. We've had lots of honest conversations with our sellers on what we need to be doing, where they need to be a little more creative on price, where they need to be a little more responsive to offers. First offer is the best offer. We've heard that for 27 years I've been in the business, and I can tell you that's still often true, but our sellers don't want to hear it. They want to hold out for that magic number that makes them feel like there's a bidding war coming. So it's honest conversation and making sure we're giving good, sometimes difficult feedback to our sellers. I mean, the house has got to show well. It's got to smell good. It's got to look good. It's got to be clean. And this is at every price point. And it's the little things that you could get away with for 2 years in the pandemic that you can't get away with anymore. So it's, the three of us have been in this business long enough. We remember how hard it was to get a listing and to sell a listing. And we're back to that model. And, like many of you out there, you're going to survive this market and do really great. But it's getting good inventory, not more inventory.
Yeah, I think along those lines, everybody's got a seller. Oh, well, my neighbor sold for this per square foot, or look at the average price per square foot, and you start explaining to them, hey, it's not all about price per square foot, right? The smaller houses always sell for more per square foot than the larger houses. Lots of people don't really understand that, and we often break it down for them. Hey, this is what houses sell per foot. But this is what your land's worth, and that's still worth more than the entire house, typically. I think one of the other important aspects, sort of touching on what I believe it was Jessica who said, you have to have real conversations with these people who want whatever number they're thinking, if it's an outrageous number. There's a lot of listings. We are very straight shooters, and everybody here is guilty, including me several times, of taking a listing just to get the listing. You want the listing, I don't care what number it is. It's a great house, it's great exposure, it's right on a busy street, I'm gonna have my sign up, whatever the reason is. But we need to have more honest conversations, because it does affect the market. It affects these numbers, which then drives perception and drives the psychology of what you had mentioned about where the market's going. And I think that's very important, because sometimes with too much inventory and people get it's very hard for buyers to sort of see the forest from the trees.
Extremely well said.
I'll just piggyback on that. So Palmetto Bay has 3.5 months of supply. That's low. Normally 6 months to 9 months would be a normal market. Pinecrest has 6 months of inventory. And I'm talking about the average stuff, not the super high-end construction stuff. But I think what we do, we try to take a holistic approach with our sellers by having a serious sit down with them to go through their house, to get their house looking their best. That then answers the first question. Every seller wants to know, what do I need to do? That's number one. Number two, every seller says, what is the price? What am I going to sell for? We have really honest conversations. I think it's important to be there. Of course, we'll occasionally take an overpriced listing because of emotion, because of a friend, because of whatever reason. But the third reason the third question sellers have is, how long is it going to take? And if we have done our best to get the house ready and we've priced it and been honest, then the house will sell within a reasonable amount of time. And if it doesn't, then of course they know that they're dealing with somebody who's trying, to be their advocate, or as Lani said, to be their real estate consultant.
I do think, though, what we're seeing is with all this inventory coming on, the buyer thinks the next best home is coming on next week. So today David's point, they're not landing, they're circling. And they think, well, next weekend there's going to be 5 new open houses, and next week there's 3 new listings. And they will look at a property of mine and say, this was fantastic, and I think I'm going to get an offer. And they go, what else you got? And they want to know what's coming up next. They want to know what's off market, because they just think this is a never-ending supply. And I think that's hurting our sales at the moment a little bit, although it's been a strong summer.
The sort of one other factor too is a lot of the houses that we sell are, the classic 50s, 60s, 70s ranch homes in Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Falls Baptist. And people it is very hard getting work done now. We all know it, even on our own homes. And so, how many homes do we really walk into and they're pristine and ready to go, where everything's been done? That's the cast iron, impact, roof, kitchen, knocking walls down. It scares tons of buyers. And I think a lot of that inventory that's driven up is inventory that still needs work. I mean, I used to joke with my mom, because she used to always say, all these young buyers, they're all spoiled. What's their problem? Like, they can't live in an old kitchen. Your father and I would have been completely happy here living in an old kitchen. But it's true. People need, in this day and age, and these younger buyers and this new up and coming generation, they want what they want, and they're going to do no matter what it takes in order to get it.
They walked to school uphill both ways, right? Yeah. This younger generation. So last question. You guys are the experts in the burbs. Predictions, rest of the year, the number of sales and prices up, the same, or down?
Sales will continue to be strong. This is the market that we need. This is where people have to live. These are people that are coming here for the long run, and they want the schools, and they want the safety, and they're confident in the appreciation. I think we're going to need rates to help us a little bit in the fall. I think we need to get past an election, and I think we could have a really great fourth quarter. But I'm bullish, like you've heard a lot of other folks say up here. I mean, everyone wants to be in Miami. There's nothing on the horizon that says we should see any kind of dip. We've got so much equity. There's so much cash. There are so many grandparents and parents that are funding their children to come back to town. I know we all talk about, if our kids want to live here, I'm looking at one of Adam's, help them buy a house. But that's what we're going to have to do, and I think that's happening a lot in our market.
Now, very, 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 very true about people buying properties. And I have a client. He's a physician at a local hospital. He just bought his 2nd acre home, moved into the new one, and is renting out the old one for his child, and she's 13 years old. Literally. He wants to have an option for her to come back at some point in his lifetime, and he could afford it, so he did it. But I see the market, if certain segments of the market, especially if you're looking under 2 million in Pinecrest now, there's not a lot of inventory. There's 10, 12, 13 homes, maybe, something like that. So I feel like certain segments of the market are going to be a little stronger than others. I've kind of seen this whole year as sort of settling, because I feel like the last 2 cycles, the time between September and the holidays, I felt down by us, has been a little slower, whereas things have been raging between January and July, August. This year, I feel like it's been a little different. It's been a little more evened out. I think David mentioned a little bit of a delayed year, and I'm kind of seeing the same thing.
We're definitely positive, because when you look at Palmetto Bay, where people, as we're saying, have to come to get affordability, you look at some of these higher end homes in Palmetto Bay, the ranchers that have been renovated, and they're selling at 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. They're selling at $700 a square foot, or mid-6s a square foot. That's incredible. And so I think it really boils down to getting your houses ready. We recently sold a house in the Falls area with Boo on our team, and we sat with the seller and told them what they needed to do, which was really staged because it was an empty house. They didn't listen. They did not think it was an important aspect to selling a house. They got a lowball offer followed by another lowball offer. We told them to think about it overnight. We were on the phone with them, seriously pressing them to take this offer as the best offer, and they came back to us the next night and said, we'll take the offer. We just closed on a property jumping out to the Grove yesterday at 4180 Grove Street. This was Tony Schrager's listing that we just closed on. These buyers from Mariana, they were my buyers that came in during COVID. He just reminded me when we were at the closing yesterday that we closed in Daytran with masks on down in the lobby, and 4 years later we're now closing in the same law office. Actually, we made it up to the real office, and he was just so bullish on Miami. This was a guy coming in during COVID from Virginia. He bought a small house on Mariana because he really didn't know what Miami was all about, and now 4 years later buying on Grove Street. So I see a lot of these people that, as we talked on this panel, all the panels, people are parking their money here and they're very, very bullish. So kudos to Miami here.
Amazing insight from all of our panelists today. I hope you guys learned a lot, enjoyed your time. Thank you all the panelists. Been just an amazing, humbling experience for you guys to volunteer all of this time and passion to help share what you're seeing and feeling and what's working for you out in the market. Like I said, we're going to share all of these slides with everybody, along with a link to a deep dive into not just the overview, but into what's going on in North Pinecrest versus South Pinecrest, what's going on in different sections of Palmetto Bay, different sections of the Grove, different price points in each area. We'd love for you to join us on that. We'll be recording it. We'll send it out. Want to thank our sponsors again. Want to thank the Landmark Theater. For those of you who haven't been here, it's a great theater. Please come watch your movies here. They've been great to us. And hopefully we'll be able to do some more of these events again in the future. Thank you all.